How you doing, guys? Big Mac Downscore here again today, back once again with another Mortal Realms video for you. Today we're going to be striking a pose because it's issue 5. Before we get into the magazine, I want to say a massive thank you to Mr. D Forks for sponsoring this episode of my Warhammer Mortal Realms coverage. He is a Patreon who pledges at a $12 level that allows him to sponsor this video and allows me to cover the magazine. I've got two $12 pledges and I am hoping to get more. If you'd like to sponsor a video of Mortal Realms like Mr. D Forks, then you can do so by following the link to my Patreon in the description below. So, here we are again with another Mortal Realms video. Issue 5 it is today, and what do we get in issue 5? Well, we get an exclusive miniature. This miniature is has limited availability. At the minute it's only available in Mortal Realms magazine, I think. I'm sure I've seen this particular miniature in another set though, and I think someone told me on a previous video's comments where I might have seen it before. The Knight-incantor is the miniature, and it's Xandria Azurebolt. Yeah, that's the name, Xandria Azurebolt. A female Knight-incantor of the Stormcast Eternals and the Hammers of Sigmar, I believe. Let's find out together, shall we, when I go through the magazine. But before we do that, let's assess the value of the miniature. It's a bit difficult because limited availability miniatures from Games Workshop can cost you between £20 and £30 typically at the current market rate in 2020. However, single character miniatures can cost you, like modern moulds, modern sculpts of single character miniatures, tend to cost you anything between £17.50 to £22.50 for a character about this size. So let's just give it a value of around £20. And if we do that, then you're saving £12 on the miniature itself. So there we go. What else do we get in this week's issue? Well, we get Xandria Azurebolt, like I've just said. We learn about Knights-Incantor. She is a Knight-incantor, so fancy that, eh? And play a game with your new hero. It's all about Xandria Azurebolt. Turning to the first page, we get the realms, magic in the Mortal Realms. So that's not even covered on the front cover. So what does it tell us about magic in the Mortal Realms? Well, it tells us that there are basically 8 different types of magic in the Mortal Realms. There's celestial magic, jade magic, amber magic, gold magic, bright magic, amethyst magic, grey magic, and light magic. Wow, that's a lot of magic. All these magics are particularly prevalent in the various different 8 Mortal Realms. It is divided into these groups by the Collegiate Arcana and the Eldritch Council. And the magic that is strongest in Shyish is amethyst, the realm of death, that is, Shyish. And jade magic is strongest in Gyran, or Gyran. How would you say that? Some of these pronunciations for me, they're completely new to me, so I'm always going to struggle. So let me know in the comments below if you've got a phonetic pronunciation of Gyran or Gyran. I think it's probably Gyran, but I'm not entirely sure. Yeah, so that is that pretty much. It just gives you an introduction to magic in the Mortal Realms. On the next page, we've got Stormcast Eternals, Knights-Incantor. The Knights-Incantor, Callers of the Storm. Knights of Renown include Xandria Azurebolt, Lena Cleasa, Prieni Blaze-Eyed. So there's 3 female characters by the sounds of it. The names seem feminine to me. Lena Cleasa, definitely, and Prieni Blaze-Eyed is probably a female as well. So just interesting point I thought I'd stick in there. Chambers, Sacrosanct Chamber, so the chamber we're getting vast majority of the miniatures, if not all of the miniatures in fact, that come with Mortal Realms magazine, the Storm Host miniatures, Stormcast miniatures. Equipment includes Void Shield, Void Storm Scroll, Spirit Flask, Incantor Staff, and their specialities are Wizard and War Leader. So they're a leader. Basically, they're like the librarians. If I like to relate things to 40k because I know 40k a little bit better than Age of Sigmar. So they're almost like the librarians of the Stormcast Eternals. Turning to the next page, it gives us a little bit more detail on those certain items. So the Voidstorm Scrolls can be used to counter the effects of an enemy wizard's spell. Spirit flasks. Knights-Incantor carry spirit flasks that can be hurled as weapons, causing deadly explosions of soul energy. Incantor's staff is enchanted with powerful magic. It is a potent combat weapon capable of dealing terrible damage to those struck by it. And Spirit Storm. Knights-Incantor can attack their enemies with spirit storms, howling tempests of gusting winds and bolts of deadly magical lightning. Some lovely artwork on that page as well. Turning to the next page. It's the magazine. These magazines, the Mortal Realms magazines, seem to come apart a lot easier than Conquest magazines in my experience. Not that Conquest magazines didn't come apart particularly easily, but these ones just seem to fall apart like, I don't know, like a clove of garlic that's easily parted. I've gone mad. On to the next page, we've got Hammers of Sigmar's Xandria Azurebolt, and it goes into greater detail about who Xandria Azurebolt is. She was born in Shyish, where she served as a courtly wizard in the Amethyst Princedoms. When the Age of Chaos came, the Chaos god Nurgle's followers descended upon her home. Xandria's spell took a great toll upon the foe. Just as she was about to be slain by a Chaos champion, Sigmar, impressed by her mastery of magic, spirited her soul to Azir. Typical Sigmar. Xandria Azurebolt, the Eye of the Storm, Storm Hosts, Hammers of Sigmar, Famous Battles, Battle of Garzan, and the Relief of Rythia. Specialities, Storm Magic, Arcane Warrior, and Commander. Turning to the next page, it gives us a few more details, but I'll just touch on this little red box here. Xandria wields the weapons of the Knight-incantor: sword, spell, and staff. The 3 S's. She is a warrior and wizard, both as capable of unleashing punishing storm magic as she is striking down the enemies of order with Sigmarite sword and enchanted staff. Turning to the next page, we get the Realms, Wars of the Dead. And this can be best summarised by the 3 boxes on the second of these 2 pages. A realm despoiled. During the Age of Chaos, monuments to Nagash were torn down and his followers that remained were scattered across Shyish. Nagash returns. As the Age of Sigmar dawned, Nagash returned from the dead, bursting through the starless gates to seek vengeance. And strange alliance, the vast armies of undead were halted at the Arch of Bones. Only the aid of the Stormcast Eternals saved Nagash's forces from defeat. So it basically details the death and return of Nagash. He's died and returned numerous times, Nagash. And this is one instance of those times when chaos poured into Shyish and tore down all the monuments to him. And then once he returned, they got their arses handed to them, basically. Even though that included aid from Sigmar and some Stormcast Eternals to see them off. Turning to the next page, it's how to build Xandria Azurebolt. It's a nice, simple build guide. And it's all on 1 page. Well, 2 pages. We get a front and a back leaf to the page, of course. And then we get how to paint Xandria Azurebolt. We've only got gold so far for the Stormcasts. So, yeah, she's only getting a coat of gold or a couple of coats of gold. 3 thin coats, probably. The Knight-incantor lights the way. Xandria Azurebolt, Knight-incantor, has arrived. Her orders from Azir are clear. Search the ruins and recover the ancient treasures and magical items hidden in the tomb complex before Nighthaunt can capture or destroy them. First, however, she must fight her way through the mob of deadly chain rasps. So, we get to field Xandria Azurebolt in battle. And it talks us through how to cast her spells in the hero phase. It's a new phase for us now. So simply declare your spell. Xandria knows Arcane Bolt, and then you roll 2 dice to see if that spell is cast. This particular spell has a casting roll of 5, so with those 2 dice you have to equal or beat 5. So it's a pretty low cost spell. Most of the time you're going to be equaling or beating 5 with 2 dice. The spell itself causes 1 damage, however if the casting roll was 10 or more, so you 2 dice to see if you can cast the spell, if the result of that is 10 or more, then it causes D3 damage, so you can take out more enemies. And it talks you through the hero phase there, and then the movement phase for Xandria Azurebolt. She can move 5 inches, and she can't quite get into combat at that stage because she's not within 3 inches of the chain rasps. Then the chain rasps get a movement phase of 6 inches. They move closer to Xandria Azurebolt in this instance. And then we get the hero phase of Xandria again, because the chain rasps can't get close enough to make it into combat with Xandria. So Xandria gets the hero phase again, then the movement phase, combat phase, because she is now close enough. She's within 3 inches, so she can make that pylon move. And then weapons, Xandria Azurebolt makes 3 melee attacks with her Incantor staff if her base is touching a chain rasp base. Not only that, she can also... Oh no, she's already cast a spell in the hero phase, sorry. I'm getting a bit muddled up here, I read this earlier. I've been reading 2 magazines today to try and get both magazine run-throughs uploaded to this video. Or to this video and the other video, the Conquest video. And then the chain rasps get to attack. They don't need to move because they're already in combat. The chain rasps get to attack. They pile in up to 3 inches so they can all get as many touching the base of Xandria Azurebolt as possible and try and make as many attacks as possible. And then the combat continues. You take damage on characters and stuff. You might need markers if your character isn't quite killed, just to know how much damage you've taken. And then the battle continues pretty much. It's the same as the previous issues where it says you can try having Xandria Azurebolt face off against some of your other Nighthaunt units. Why not, eh? Makes sense, doesn't it? Not only that, we get a war scroll for Xandria Azurebolt on this back page. She gets a movement of 5. She can take 5 damage. And melee weapons, Incantor staff, 3 dice, 3 plus to hit, D3 damage. And magic, she knows Arcane Ball, as we've discovered in the tutorial. Turning to the back page, what are we getting in next week's issue? Well, we're going to get the Thorns of the Briar Queen have arrived. This, I didn't realise this, but apparently this is a Shadespire warband. I was wondering to myself, before somebody pointed it out in a last video, if we would get a Shadespire warband, because we've seen Shadespire on the map in Shyish. So I was wondering if we'd, over the course of the magazine, get Shadespire warbands. It seems that we are doing. I imagine we'll get some Stormcast Shadespire warbands as well. But maybe you know already. Maybe because I've not looked as deeply into what miniatures we're getting in Mortal Realms as I did with Conquest. So if you do know that we are getting 2 sets of Shadespire warbands, let me know in the comments below. It's going to be interesting, to me at least, to see if maybe a couple of the issues could be dedicated to learning how to play Shadespire, as well as Age of Sigmar, the main game. And then that's issue 6, but then issue 7 we are getting Learn to Shade and Dry Brush with your new paints. So we get 2 new paints, Stormhost Silver and Rakeland Flesh Shade. Excellent stuff. These Stormcasts will be painted up to the next level once we get them. Just before I go, I want to say again a massive thank you to D-Forks for sponsoring this week's episode. He is a patron of mine and pledges $12 in order to sponsor an episode. If you'd like to sponsor an episode and get a shout out like that, then feel free to check the link to my Patreon in the description below. There are multiple levels you can pledge at. There's a $1 level, which really goes towards helping the channel. If I can get a few more single dollar pledges, then I'll be able to continue Mortal Realms into the future. The $5 level really helps out the channel too. It enables me to keep making videos, funnily enough. These Mortal Realms videos, they come at a cost basically, these Mortal Realms videos. I have no massive interest in Age of Sigmar. I'm interested in learning about the lore of it, but I don't really want to get into another game because I don't play enough of 40k. So I review these magazines so you can see what's in them. And the $5 level really goes towards basically almost half the cost of a magazine. The $12 level, like I said, you can sponsor an entire video if you wanted to and pledge at the $12 level. But if you can't afford to pledge, it's okay. I'm not offended that people don't pledge. I'm amazed that people do pledge. So yeah, again, thanks to D-Forks for that. We'll leave it there for now, guys. Thanks so much for watching, and I will see you on the battlefield.